Okay, so if you love food, but you aren't feeling good in your body and your clothes, then chances are you're making the second biggest sneaky mistake blocking and that's blocking weight loss without even knowing it. So tune into this week's episode to discover exactly where you're going wrong and how to prevent this sneaky mistake from keeping you feeling good in your body and your clothes. So, welcome to Joyful Eating. I'm Jules Clancy, and today we're talking about the second biggest sneaky mistake food lovers make that block weight loss. And before we get into that, the best bite I had on the weekend, last weekend, my Irishman roasted a chicken and he did some spuds and that was good. But the best part was I made this pear and pecan salad. So had some pears from the farmer's market, like a local farmer, and they're just so beautiful. And I shaved them with the mandolin. So they were like just little fine, and then had tossed in with some green leaves and just a vinaigrette. And then, but the best part was the combination of sweet pear, and then I roasted some pecans. So we had like that crunch and the nuttiness of the pecans contrasting with the pear. It's just like flavor explosion salad. So definitely stole the show over the over the roast chicken. Okay, so our plan for today is first I'm going to share the story behind this episode, and then we're going to look at like what this second biggest sneaky weight loss blocking mistake is. And of course, you're going to be thinking, oh, if this is the second biggest, what's the biggest mistake? We'll get to that later. And then we'll talk about this second biggest mistake and why this mistake blocks weight loss. And then we'll look at what the fun and also delicious alternative is. And then we've got a bonus experiment for you to apply this week. So uh, basically, the story behind how I came up with this idea was, or I decided to record this episode this week was, I've just started working with a new business coach, and one of the exercises he was getting us to do is to like go through and list like all the common mistakes that your clients make before they start working with you, and um, and rate them on like how obvious they are versus how mind blowing they are. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like just so my list was like so long. And some of them, like I was like, wow, for most people, these are pretty mind-blowing. And it's funny because I've been doing this for so long now, I forget how radically different my approach to food and weight loss is compared to the conventional approach. So I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many here. Um, so I was just like, oh, let's share the second biggest one one this week. So that's the story behind this. So now you're probably wondering, of course, what is this second biggest mistake and that blocks weight loss? And basically, it's what's known as food moralizing. And so, and what I mean by that, it's like seeing food, thinking of food as either good or bad. So we've got this, and this is like so part of our modern culture and like the nutrition messages that we get. It's like, oh yeah, avoid these bad foods, like, or yeah, eat more of these healthy foods, and that's all you need to do to like be at your ideal weight. Like it just avoid the bad ones and then stick with the good ones. And so and this is like being taught in schools. Like my children are being taught, oh yeah, like these are healthy foods, like fruits and vegetables are healthy and packaged food is bad. And so this is like so pervasive in our culture. And the reason why this is a mistake, like seeing food as good and bad, is because like there's a heap of different reasons, but one of them like is that it creates this scarcity thinking around bad food. So we like shouldn't be having them, and so we're avoiding them, and then we get into this like all or nothing cycle with it. So yeah, okay, so we're like denying ourselves and denying ourselves, and then all of a sudden like we have access to the bad food, and so then we're like unable to control ourselves and we're overeating it because in the back of our mind we're like, oh, this is bad, I shouldn't be doing this, and I'll just finish this off, and then I'll never have whatever it is, a cheesecake ever again. I'll just finish off this whole cheesecake, and then because then I'm like moving forward I wouldn't ever have cheesecake again. And actually so one of my clients this week was talking about like so her brother, she was going to visit her brother, and he always has a lot of junk food in the house. And she was talking about like last time she was there, like she's like, the pretzels were talking to me. So yeah, because she'd previously seen pretzels as processed food, they were bad, so she shouldn't be having them. And then all of a sudden they were like in her ear, and then she found that she couldn't control herself around them because of this like all or nothing thinking, this good and bad thinking that she had around food. So that's one of the reasons why, yeah, food moralizing is detrimental. Is that it creates this scarcity thinking, and then it kind of glamorizes it in some way, these foods. And so then when we do eat them, it's really hard for us to eat them in a balanced way because we're like, we've got this all or nothing thinking. So yeah, it causes the overeating of the bad foods. And then the other reason why seeing food as good and bad is unhelpful is that it can give you that reason to overeat the healthy food, that like the food on the good list of which it's, we can, this idea of free foods, and that, so if it's good, if it's healthy, then it doesn't matter how much we're eating of it. Like, let's keep going, and just do that thought experiment of, like, yourself, like there've been meals that days where you've had like all healthy food, but if you're eating too much, it doesn't matter whether it's broccoli or pretzels. Like, if you're eating too much, if you're eating too more calories than your body needs, like the weight isn't going to shift. And so that's there's like that two-pronged reason why it's like, why this is why food moralizing hurts us. First of all, it creates that scarcity thinking around the bad food, and then it also makes us overly permissive with the good food, and it blocks us from remembering that actually it doesn't really matter whether food is good or bad. It's like how much we're eating overall that determines whether we like lose weight or gain weight. And the other reason, um, yeah, and so this is like, and the other reason is why I think it's really unhelpful that we have this like good food, bad food, like this food moralizing thing, is that it dis it disempowers it disempowers us from tuning in and trusting our own judgment. Like, it's like, these lists are coming from authorities that we're not giving our own bodies and our own like sense of what's good for me any credence. So yeah, it's coming from outside of ourselves, and then that also of course has it's a whole other set of rules of like, we can follow other people's rules for a while, but then of course we want to rebel against them. So there's so many reasons why seeing food or bad isn't helpful. And the other reason why it's not helpful is that it's like we miss out on some of the, like, because if we're like we're seeing food as bad and we're not letting ourselves have it, we miss out on all that. Like, there's many reasons to eat food that don't have anything to do with nutrition. Like, there's nostalgia or connection. And like my example of my client whose brother always had pretzels, like, and she was like, actually, he like that sharing, sharing that sharing the pretzels or over a drink, like there's a connection that happens there. Whereas if she's like not having pretzels because she's like they're bad, she's missing out on the connection. And like there's so many other reasons. Like, there's nostalgia, there's celebration, there's so many other reasons that we can be missing out on if we are avoiding all these bad foods. So what's the alternative? If we don't have this list of good foods and bad foods, like what is the alternative? So first is just to decide to like not buy into that story and to stop moralizing, stop seeing food as good and bad, and just remembering that, yeah, all food has some value, whether it's, some for some food there's the value may just be it gives you some energy, but all food has value. So just decide to like stop tuning into that conversation and then the next thing like is to give yourself permission to have the food that you really love. So actually give yourself, like, if you really love pretzels, give yourself permission to have pretzels. Do you want to be having pretzels every day? Maybe not. but maybe it's like something that you, like my client, maybe she's just going to have pretzels when she goes and visits her brother, and that's going to be great. Like, but maybe she might want to have them more often. Like, it's up to you to decide the frequency, but giving yourself that permission to have food, the um, all food, and then choosing from like what feels good to me, like what do I really want, uh, is so much better. And then what we want to do is like just be intentional around the quantities. So, just because if we're having pretzels, it's not an excuse to go and like completely over indulge, like to have way too many pretzels. Like, we want to still be mindful of the amounts. In context of what we're eating throughout the whole day, but we're finding that balance in terms of quantity. And And so like a great another example of this was like one of my clients, she was like, she had noticed that she like had she was having chocolate mousse with her husband, and she was like, oh, actually, she had a few spoons, and she was like, you know what, that's enough for me, and she gave the rest of hers to him. And she was like, oh, that's interesting, like that I can know when I'm satisfied with chocolate mousse and like have no dramas about like leaving it behind. But she was really noticing in herself that like when it came to pasta, that she was like she had no off switch, like she would like eat the whole bowl. And so, and just like unpacking that and realizing that actually, there's been years of seeing pasta as something that's bad, and from the low carb movement, and how that food moralizing, that seeing pasta as bad and then denying herself from having pasta, which she really loves, had over the years built up this behavior where she would just, whenever she was having pasta, it'd be like, oh, me all the pasta now because I may not have pasta in the future. And so what I've done with her is like done some experiments where she's actually given herself permission to have pasta like every day, but just be mindful of the quantities so that she can build that trust with herself that yes, of course, there is going to be pasta in my future. So that's the new way, is to like stop moralizing and give yourself permission to have the foods that you love. And also give yourself permission to, if you don't love a food, like don't eat it because it's healthy, like because it's on the good food list. Like give yourself permission to, if you don't like broccoli, just leave broccoli go as well. And the benefits is like when you do this, like when you give yourself that permission, you get so much like you free yourself up to get the enjoyment of food, and also then you're not missing out on the non-nutritional benefits of food. Like you're not missing out on the celebration, you're not missing out on the connection, you're not missing out on the nostalgia of like your mother's apple pie, whatever it is. um, and the other, of course, benefit is that when you stop having this all or nothing scarcity thinking around food, then you are able to find that balance in terms of the quantity, which means that you aren't overeating, like you're not eating too much. And which means, of course, that your weight starts to slowly and sustainably go down because you're finding that balance in the quantity. And the other benefit of doing it this way, where you're not seeing food as good and bad, is that it's an opportunity to like build that self-trust as well, where you're like, and that feels really good, like where you go, oh, you know what, I can have whatever I want, if like, and I'm not denying myself, and I'm not afraid of like overindulging, because I have that trust with myself that, yeah, I'm not going to suddenly deny myself ever having the foods that I love, like no more pasta ever again. Like I'm going to give myself that. And it feels so good to have that it's like that relationship with yourself improves as well. So there's so many side benefits apart from the benefit to your waistline, like when you do this. So yeah, so the bonus experiment I have for you this week is just, I want you to think about something that you actually do, you may have enjoyed in the past, but you haven't had it for a long time because you're seeing it in this bad food. So maybe it's something like highly processed junk food, maybe it's your pretzels, maybe it's pasta, like maybe it's, I don't know, whatever comes to mind, maybe it's a brownie, like whatever it comes to mind that you haven't had for a while because it's on the bad food list. And I want you to actually plan in and give yourself the gift of having that this week. Like actually set that intention of, yeah, I am going to I'm going to go and buy a packet of those, whatever, from the whatever grocery store, and give yourself that gift of actually getting some, in, being mindful of like being intentional about the quantity, and then sitting down and enjoying it and really letting yourself have that enjoyment of it. And you never know, you may decide that actually when you do have permission to have it, sometimes it's not as good as you remember, but like it'll all be learning. So that's my experiment for you to play around this week. And also to just notice how it feels to enjoy food, how good it feels to give yourself that gift and to enjoy food intentionally without all that moralizing heaviness going on in the background. And then also give yourself like just tune in and notice like how you feel and how your body feels after having that food. Because like maybe it will be something that doesn't react so well with you. And maybe it might be something that you don't want to be having on a regular basis. But it's up to like, you won't know that unless you have it and then have that experience. So That's my experiment for you this week. And then my invitation for you is, like, if you want to discover the other there's a heap of other main mistakes that food lovers make that block weight loss, then I'm actually running a free information session about the Naturally Healthy Club, which is my group coaching program. And so in that information session, you're going to discover not one, but two, but seven sneaky mistakes that block food lovers from losing weight sustainably, and the counterintuitive approach that stops these mistakes keeping you stuck. I'm also going to share with you the two essential skills that for a naturally healthy and enjoyable relationship with food, so you can reach and stay at your ideal weight without restricting or missing out on anything. And I'll also be sharing the one little thing it's holding you back from changing, and the simplest way to overcome it, so you actually get more enjoyment from food and not never feel like you're missing out. And then finally, I'll just share with you, like, how coaching works, and the exact simple, doable process that we follow in the Naturally Healthy Club, so you feel in control of your weight and it's not like this mystery thing, and you stop searching constantly for the answer. So if any of that sounding good, then you want to save your seat, just go to smp.to/NHC. So SMP stands for Simple Meal Plan. So SMP, so yeah, smp.to and then /NHC for Naturally Healthy Club. Or just check out the link in the show notes. But yeah, I would love to see you in that free, no obligation information session. Okay, have a fantastic week, and I'll catch you next week.